Outline. Outlines. It's a word that like gets thrown around a lot. Write your outline. You better have an outline. Outline. But like what exactly is an outline, and like how do you make one that's effective? I don't know. But like I'll try and give you an overview here. So to me, an outline is anything that maps out a plot that isn't the final product. In that regard, an outline is everything from the initial plot graph to even the final script in my as far as like I'm concerned. Why use such a broad encompassing version of the word outline? I do it because outlining is a very personal process and you need to find what works best for you. So I like to be inclusive of all kinds of outliners. So some people like they dive straight into the script and just rewrite it a bunch, while other people write out plot points, follow formulas, or they kind of like mix everything together. Most people are going to be some sort of mix. Since y'all are artists, I have decided that we should consider these outline types as steps of drawing. Okay? So, like, the first type of outline is a gesture. So with this gesture, I use it sort of as like my initial step. So I start asking questions about the main plot, the subplots, the conflict, or even just like write down the prompts I'm going with. I'll write down character ideas, settings, magic systems, even just paste in like referential material. This initial thing is more like brainstorming, and it looks very different with each story I work on. I'll show you an example here. This is the initial outline roadmap thing for my NaNoWriMo novel that will be this year. I'm like thinking of working on it through videos and maybe like showing you my process, but I don't know if that's like interesting to you or not. Anyways, as you can see, I mainly just ask myself some general questions, get a feel of like what kind of story I want to write. That's all the gesture is. It's a starting point. It's better than nothing. This is the better than nothing outline. Depending on the story, this like general idea can actually be like pages and pages of world building, or I can just start off with like, what kind of story am I going to write? This one, and then I go. But even if I just skip ahead and just start writing, I always have some sort of gestural outline that like appears. Like sometimes I'll do it like halfway through a script where I'm just like, okay, now what am I writing about? Like let's get on the same page here. Yeah, so it's a very important one to kind of wrap your head around, and it's very, very personal. The next kind of outline I kind of want to talk about is like your sketch outline. This is more like the traditional kind of outline. Yeah, this is the shape of your plot. It is your major plot points, your character arcs, and your subplot. And it's really pulled back from the nitty-gritty of your story, which allows you to look at your major plot points and look at the whole scope of your story. I use different formulas to map out this plot, but I tend to kind of stick to the 7-point structure, which I learned from Dan Wells, and I will link it in the description because he goes in depth about all the little plot point bitty things, and it's way better than anything I could come up with right now. I personally find I don't push things far enough in these kind of outlines. I usually end up like neglecting the middle part and like the rising action, but that's just me. This is why I don't like totally go on this form. But the part I find most helpful for working on the 7 points, which I don't think is actually mentioned in Dan's talk, but it's defining the character needs and wants. This is helpful regardless of what outline I'm working on, like what kind of structural like sketch outline I'm working on. But at some point in the outline phase, I need to define something concrete that my character wants. It's not something like they want to be happy, but more something like concrete. It's like they want to get a dog. They want to avenge their family by killing the king and taking his riches, something like that, something very specific. This defines the concrete motivation and helps me guide myself when I get lost. Half the time I get lost in a plot, it's because I have lost sight of the character's goals. So if you're gonna do anything, make sure to write that down. Defining the need defines your character's conflict. In order to get what they want, what they're motivated to get, your character needs to do X. Their need. In order to get the dog, your character needs to show they're responsible. In order to kill the king, the character needs to overcome self-doubt, get stronger, eat spinach. The need is something that your character continually fails at. If you're struggling with upping your stakes, think about what lesson your character needs to learn and make their failures hinge on that thing. Anyways, I'm getting lost in the weeds again. Other great alternatives to the 7-point structure that you can look into are the 3-act structure, the hero's journey, the snowflake method, the Hollywood formula. There are so many formulas. Find whichever one works for you. Yeah, it's good to just familiarize yourself with different formulas. I wrote a lot of stories that were exactly to these formulas. I would painstakingly follow them before I ever broke away from them. I still find they're good as a starting point, and they're good for a general idea of how to shape plots, and do it on your own a little more by the seat of your pants once they're kind of ingrained in your head. But they're also good for diagnosing problems. If your story isn't working, look at the formula and be oh, that's why that isn't working. I need a midpoint. That's the kind of crap you'll figure out with these sketches. They're just a good starting point, and they're the typical thing you think of when you think of outlines. The next type of outline is a little more painting. It involves layering and lots of course corrections, and it's my current outline of choice. I call it my rolling outline. It basically starts as that sketch outline, but I get more in depth the closer I get to writing the particular point. It's kind of seeing through the fog. I kind of have a general idea what's on the other side of the fog, but as I get closer to it, I start defining things. Yeah, the endpoints are really vague. The close events I start writing things as little checklists so I don't miss things. It's basically a big mess, and I don't really know how to describe it exactly, but there are a few little key points that I use to guide myself along through them. The first thing is, again, I have my general outlines done. I've got my characters' wants and needs. I got all these guiding posts if I ever get lost, and I've got a vague ending in the works based on all of these things, and then I just need to keep these few principles in mind as I write. The first thing I need to remind myself is that everything is always in a constant state of getting worse. That means that characters, plots, everything, it's always getting worse. I've learned this advice from improv stuff, where it's no but, yes and. At the end of every scene, your character wants something. Do they get that thing? If yes, they get it, but there's a consequence. If no, they also get another consequence on top of that. Always make things getting worse. Like my grammar. Another thing I keep in mind is my midpoint, where I am in relation to my midpoint. I will probably talk about midpoints at another date, but basically once you hit the midpoint, you start answering questions. Before the midpoint, you keep posing questions to your reader. What is this? Ooh, mysterious town, mysterious girl. And then once you hit the midpoint, it's okay, that's who she is. That's what this town is about. That's why this happened. Oh, I'm starting to get all the puzzle pieces. They're starting to line up. And then you have your final missing piece punch at the end where everything comes together. It's hard, but the guiding principle is questions happen before the midpoint, and after the midpoint, you start adding answers to the mix. But not Okay, don't just hide things that shouldn't be a mystery. Make sure you know what needs to be set up in your introduction and not hide it till the end, because that's something I do. I'll like squirrel away answers to very obvious things that should not be hidden. So don't do that. But major questions, anything that's really exciting, like hide that in a bit of a mystery at the beginning and then start answering the questions later. I always have to remind myself that it's okay and it is necessary to stir the pot and screw things up. Like, when you're writing your outline, you just gotta remember that the status quo is boring, it's safe, it's what you want to write, but the exciting things happen if you destroy things with dragons. Like, remember to do exciting things, remember to change the status quo. That's like the hardest thing that I find with my outlines. Is that's why my outlines haven't really worked in the past, is I haven't disturbed the status quo enough, and I become way too used to like the status quo that I set with my outline. So maybe you'll end up doing better than me, but remember to stir the pot. And if you hate all this outlining stuff, you can just write the script and that counts as an outline, okay? As long as you rewrite it, as long as this isn't your finished polished draft, it's fine. You can rewrite it, you can make things better. Yeah, I should probably answer way more questions about plot and character and all this stuff. Writing is really hard, okay? And don't feel bad if you're having struggles getting your head around it, because it's just as hard as doing art and stuff. And I often forget that, and it makes me feel bad. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyways, so if you have any more questions about writing, I have an amazing opportunity for you. So tonight at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time, is that what EST means? I think so. I'll be doing a live event with Ursula, so you can ask me questions, and I'll be a bit liquored up because it's her birthday, and we're gonna get drunk, and we're gonna tell you amazing stories and draw your drawing requests, and we're gonna freaking do the last push and get this Kickstarter done. Heck yeah. So come see us. Link is in the description for the Kickstarter-y thing. And yeah, I would love to see you there and answer your questions. If you can't go there, you can leave a question down below and I can try and ramble about it and just confuse you more. So win, 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 or lose, 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 depending on how much you like me. I don't know. I need to do something. I forget what it is, but I will. Goodbye. See ya.